So One Piece episode 576 almost felt as though it wasn't filler. And to be honest with you, can you really even consider this filler? Because most of these events are probably going to be carried on, especially in the anime anyway, as if they happen. Because this is leading up to Film Z. And, you know, especially the way they introduced a very important character into the new world in this quote-unquote filler arc. You know, if when canon comes, they're gonna, you know, reintroduce him, and you know what they're gonna do exactly. They can't just negate what happened in this filler. They're not gonna just act like it never happened. So I'm starting to feel like, wow, this doesn't even feel like filler, because basically you get Momonga, Vice Admiral, and he's introduced for the first time, and a lot of people were speculating that he was going to be an admiral, and since they introduced him in this filler arc, is leading me to question exactly how close are the studio working with Oda as far as this filler arc goes, because, you know, they don't want to conflict with the main story too much, you know, especially like, what if Oda decided he wanted to make him an admiral, a fleet admiral, craziness. So, you know, definitely I would say that they probably are working closely with Oda, and Oda gave them the okay to do this, which is a little downer, because it would have been cool to see Momonga as an admiral, but at the same time, that goes to show that he's just not at that level yet, which also leads me to believe, like, wow, you know, exactly how strong you have to be admiral. I mean, we've seen how strong the admirals are, but that's kind of interesting to see. Like, there's probably a vast difference between like Momonga and Kizaru or Aokiji or whatnot. But nonetheless, it was cool to see him in this particular episode, and I'm really liking how this filler storyline is actually going. They're connecting a lot of dots to the main story, which is really cool. Like, apparently Lily's father was best friends with the giants from Elbaf. You know, it was just really cool to see, to be honest with you. It's like, it, again, didn't feel like filler. It actually felt like this was a story that Oda wrote and just decided to put it on the back burner for the anime or something like that. So really cool. Really liked it, to be honest with you. The animation wasn't nothing special, but like, we got a little clash between Zoro and Momonga for a moment. We got jokes with the wanted poster with Sanji. This episode, by far, I enjoyed a lot more than last week's. I don't know why. Maybe just last week's was really slow paced for me or something, but this episode for me was like in the 8-ish, 9-ish territory, compared to last week's was like in the 6-ish territory. So really enjoyed it. I definitely got to say that as far as like the way they're approaching this, to connecting it with Film Z, is very nice as well, because we got that main villain guy from the Neo Navy is actually talking about Z already, and Momonga seemingly knew him. He said Z, so you know, that's kind of cool as well. I really wish we would be able to see Film Z, because it's kind of like we're watching this filler that leads into a movie that we won't be able to see for a year. It's a shame, but nonetheless, it still doesn't take away from the pretty epicness of this particular episode. It was like, yo, man, you got Momonga, you got this big old giant from Elbaf, and I really knew when him and his daughter were approaching each other that something was going to happen to him, and the cannons started shooting at him. I knew it. I could just feel it. And it's kind of funny, because I don't know if necessarily it's because of the filler or whatnot, but to see Luffy go against what Nami, like, put together. Normally he doesn't do that. Like, yeah, he wants to go on his adventures and he'll do whatever he can, but to actually go against Nami's particular structure of the way she wants them to do things, like, you know, they always set up, they go on, they split up or whatever on islands. So see him go against her was kind of a little weird or whatever, but not too out of character, because Luffy rather go on the adventure. You don't want to do the boring stuff, but still to see him actually go against her structure is a little bit weird. And nonetheless, really good episode. Definitely, like, makes you, like, I love it when they do this in filler, which makes you feel like you're watching it with a purpose, and not just, oh, well, you know, I want to watch this filler. It's like actually feeling like canon, which is freaking awesome. And to see, like, I can't wait to see Momonga versus that guy from the Neo Navy, and, you know, just see everybody going crazy, because it's cool to see Momonga, and actually to be introduced in this filler arc is interesting. It's like, wow, it's almost as though Oda, like, is probably not going to introduce him for a very long time again in the new world, so it's just like, whatever. Makes it interesting, though. Maybe when we do see him again down the line, during the time between now and that particular part, he could be an admiral still, but as of right now, he's still vice admiral. And, you know, he's pretty, interestingly, his strength is pretty interesting, because it's like he went up against Zoro in a clash, and while it wasn't anything of a fight or anything like that, I wonder exactly where does that put Zoro's strength, as far as, you know, that's a vice admiral there. Like, does that mean that Zoro's already vice admiral level? Just saying. And again, of course, it's filler, so you could take it with a grain of salt, but I don't think that they're going to mess with the story, so probably Oda had a big involvement, or they had to pass everything through Oda before they did this, because as some of you may know, Oda works 21 hours a day. Yeah, that man is very dedicated. So he might have said, hey, you know, sounds good. I'm not going to introduce Momonga for a while, or he's not even going to be that big of a part in the story anymore. So do as you like. Also introducing that character that's best friends with the Giants from Elbaf. You can do that as well, because, you know, there's parts of the story where Oda already kind of did what he needed to do with them. So when they do come back into the fold, they won't be as important, but they will come back at some given point. So, you know, talking about connections with the Giants from Elbaf and bringing them Momonga, they might not be that relevant to the story anymore. So it'll be okay for them to do that with the anime studio. And nonetheless, once again, solid episode. Really enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, though. Were you disappointed that Momonga was actually his first appearance in the new world, you know, in the second half, the time skip, is actually in filler, and that he's still Vice Admiral? Or were you excited that, like, it was a good treat? That, you know, oh shit, you know, in a filler they're actually throwing stuff like that in? And also, are you, like, excited that they're mentioning Z, even though we're not going to see that movie for, like, over a year, but still, it's kind of cool that they're connecting everything, the movie, the anime, and the manga. They're doing all, like, original stories that are coming together. I think that that's pretty neat. That's pretty interesting, you know, something a little bit different than the normal approach of just adapting the manga into the anime, etc. But yeah, that's all I have for this review. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Thumbs up for Momonga. To be honest with you, that was like the treat of the episode for me, to be able to see him showing up again, and, you know, just see where the studio approaches this, because not having a manga background to, like, guide me through is actually a little bit more interesting and leaves things a little more refreshing for the next episode to come. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.